So I don't really know how to feel about this game. Obviously, I'm happy the Bulls won. This was a game they really had to win against a bad Wizards team that doesn't have any playoff hopes or aspirations at this point in the season. And the Bulls finally executed and played well in the fourth quarter to really make this a pretty convincing win. But this game was way too close for most of it against a 32-42 Wizards team that was without Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma. Really, this should have been a pretty easy win for the Bulls, and the Wizards kept this one pretty close until about halfway through the fourth quarter. But you know what? As I always say, a win is a win, even if it isn't pretty. And now, the Bulls, who have struggled on the road all season, come home for 6 straight games before playing their final game on the road in Minnesota, and hopefully the Bulls can gain some momentum in front of their hometown crowd. Now, I think the most concerning thing for me about this game was how similar this was compared to the game last night against the Knicks. The Bulls started off strong. They played solid defense to begin. They were moving the ball around, and then you saw them come out in the second quarter, and that energy just went away. Guys weren't moving, and they were back to their ISO ball. That ended in one-and-done possessions, just like last night. And then right out of the locker room to start the third quarter, just like last night as well, the Wizards went on a 7-0 run, and it looked like we were going to be seeing a repeat of the game against the Knicks. But thankfully, the Bulls were able to maintain their composure, go on a mini run of their own, and kept it competitive throughout the third quarter before taking over in the fourth. Now, I'll talk about the positives from this game because I don't want people to just think I'm being negative, especially after last night's rant video. But what irked me the most from this game, and I was talking about this in the live chat, was Zach LaVine's decision making tonight. We are literally seeing a repeat of the old Zach LaVine coached under Jim Boylan. And we all thought that we were past this with Zach. The last 2 years or so, he has really shown up very well in taking that step towards making it to the next level and getting better with every passing season. And look, I know he's not 100%. We all know this, and I'm sure that is impacting his play to an extent. But having a sore knee does not impact your IQ and decision making on the court. How many times are we going to see LaVine taking these bad step back contested threes at the worst time when your team is moving around and looking for the ball? How many dribble drives to the basket are going to result in turnovers when you could have kicked it out to the open man on the corner? Now, I don't want to discount Zach because he's still one of our best players. He's one of the Bulls' most impactful players, and without Zach, the Bulls don't find themselves where they are today, 5th in the East. But after seeing Zach this second half of the season, I have serious concerns about signing this guy to a max contract of $40 million a season. I just don't think he is that guy that you build your franchise around. It's not like he is a 3rd or 4th year player and he's figuring things out and still developing. No, Zach is 27 years old. He's been in the league for a while. And this was really the season where you thought that his improved decision making would start to take place. He's in the peak of his prime, and I'm just not sure we're going to see him get there to be that next level superstar player. Again, this was also just a bad game from Zach, so I don't want people to think that I'm just laying into the guy when he had a bad game. Every player has a bad game. Zach tonight, 14 points, didn't have a single point in the first half, was 4 for 10, 2 for 5 from 3, 4 rebounds, and only 1 assist, along with 3 turnovers. This was probably the worst game from Zach LaVine that he's had all season from top to bottom. Now, I also felt the same way about DeMar tonight, though. Dude was lethal in the fourth quarter, which kind of negates his poor decision making earlier on in the game. But again, it's these ISO plays that are driving me crazy, especially late in game, when we damn well know that this team is far better when they're playing with a high level of ball and player movement. Even on some of the shots that DeMar made, I said it in the chat, that's not a good shot in that moment of the game. Glad he made it, but that's not a good play. And it's not going to fly against some of the best teams in the league when you go into the playoffs. Now, on a positive note, luckily for the Bulls, Vucevic finally had himself a really big game. And really in the first half, he was a little quieter in the second half. I believe he had 20 points in the first half alone. But feeding Vucevic proved to be the X factor in this game. And it was another reason why it was driving me insane to see DeMar and Zach play in the manner that they were when you could see that going to Vuce was working given the mismatches that were presented tonight. Vucevic finished the game with 27 points on 12 for 19 shooting. Wasn't settling for 3-point shots, even though he did still take some, but he was also hitting those outside shots. Vucevic wasn't crashing the boards, only had 5 rebounds, but he was also impactful tonight with his passing, which I feel like we haven't seen enough recently from Vucevic. He finished the game with 4 assists and was more active in getting guys involved. This was the type of play we needed to see from Vucevic. I've said it multiple times on this channel, and I know people have laughed at me for it, but Vooch is the X factor for this team. He's the Bulls' third option, and when he's able to step up in the way that he did tonight when things aren't working for LaVine and DeRozan, that is incredibly key for the Bulls. The question is, can he do that consistently? The other thing I liked seeing tonight was the activity from the bench, a bench that was essentially a non-factor last night against the Knicks. Tonight, you had 28 points for the Bulls off of the bench. You had a much better showing from Coby White. I still maintain he's the most inconsistent player in the NBA, but tonight he was being much more aggressive in getting to the basket, but also had improved passing. Coby was a plus 18 tonight, which was a team high. Then you had what was arguably the best game from Patrick Williams since returning from injury. You guys probably saw prior to the game, Billy Donovan was saying that he's not the type of coach to give guys minutes based on development or hype of a player, but that players have to earn their minutes. This was in reference to Patrick Williams not getting the call to come into the game last night when Caruso fouled out of the game and Billy Donovan opted to play Javonte Green. And that really seemed to hit with Patrick Williams because he was much more assertive tonight, albeit making mistakes here and there, but I can live with those mistakes if it means Patrick is doing more than just standing out on the corner and waiting for the ball to come to him. Tonight, he was making plays, driving to the basket. He was crashing the boards in the limited time that he played. He actually tied DeRozan for most rebounds in the game at 7 boards despite only playing 25 minutes. He also had 6 points on 2 for 5 shooting. Javonte Green was also impactful with his minutes, and of course he had those 2 epic throwdowns that got me out of my seat. And Tristan Thompson looked good in the minutes that he played as well. I'm still struggling to understand why Derrick Jones Jr. has been out of the rotation. Like, I get there aren't really enough minutes to go around, but using an athletic wing that can give you some defense is needed when the Bulls have been a bit lackluster on that end of the floor. Anyway, all in all, like I said, I'm glad the Bulls got the win despite it not being the prettiest. But seeing the 26 assists tonight, that was a big positive compared to the 16 they had the other night. And the Bulls, despite having some sloppy plays at times, they took care of the ball tonight with only 8 turnovers. Turnovers really killed the Bulls in the last night's game. So with this win, the Bulls still remain in the East, 5th in the East, now a half game ahead of the Raptors, 1.5 games ahead of the Cavs. They hold a tiebreaker against both of those teams, which helps even more. The Bulls are on their way to securing a playoff spot, but they control their own destiny and just need to stay focused and keep winning, especially now that they're heading back home to the United Center. I'll have my Bulls hot takes video out tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Until then, guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.